The New York Islanders have 5 games left on their schedule, including tonight. We're going to tell you why it's time to sit Ilya Sorokin for the rest of the season. We'll have that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the New York Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey as the season begins to wind down. We saw an injury to Ilya Sorokin. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Islanders nominee for the Masterton Trophy, and we'll preview tonight's game against the New York Rangers. All that coming up. But we're going to start with Ilya Sorokin, and it's really, quite honestly, part of an even bigger discussion, but we're going to start with Ilya Sorokin. Sorokin was injured in the team's loss to the Nashville Predators on Tuesday. And it did not appear to be a serious injury. He played the last 6.5 minutes of that second period after the incident occurred that caused him to get hurt. The Islanders did not give a specific update on Sorokin's status on Wednesday as they were traveling back from Nashville to Long Island. So we do not have anything specific on Sorokin as far as his readiness to play. But right now, based on where the New York Islanders are, I would have to say that it makes more sense to be cautious with Ilya Sorokin. And it is probably best to shut him down for the duration of the season. As of right now, at the time of this recording, the New York Islanders have a 1% chance of making the playoffs this year. Right now, with 5 games to go, the Islanders are 8 points behind the Montreal Canadiens, who, by the way, have a 96.8% chance of making the playoffs. They are 8 points behind Montreal, and the maximum number of points if the Islanders win every game left on their schedule is 10. The tragic number for elimination for the New York Islanders is 3 points. So any combination of points that the Montreal Canadiens get, a win, an overtime loss, and points that the Islanders do not get, an overtime loss or a regulation loss, you add those numbers up to 3, and the Islanders are officially eliminated from playoff contention. Right now, there just isn't much in the way of a reason to play Ilya Sorokin. Sorokin has, and every dayers will remember, we talked about his workload a bit yesterday, but he has played in 59 games so far out of the Islanders' 77. So there's 18 games out of 77 that Sorokin didn't play in. But again, if you remember that Sorokin started the season off as the backup, did not start the first few games, and then was gradually worked back into the rotation because he had off-season back surgery. And then, he ended up having to just about play every game after Semyon Varlamov went down with an injury in November. The point is that when you have only a 1% chance of making the playoffs, you have a player in Sorokin who is coming off back surgery less than a year ago, who just, it looked like had his knee twisted a little bit. But again, I'm not a doctor. I can only say what I saw on the ice as a result of the collision with McCarron of the Predators. So, yeah, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me. I would go with Marcus Hogberg. Not that Hogberg has played particularly well recently. I mean, if you looked at Hogberg's stats before his most recent injury, he had a goals against average of 1.5 at one point and a .937 save percentage. Those numbers have come back down to earth. He has a 2.62 goals against and a .907 save percentage. Those are not elite numbers. And look, Marcus Hogberg has given the Islanders more than what they probably expected from him when they signed him in the offseason. He delivered and kept this team in the playoff hunt when he needed to, but he is a third-string goalie in this organization for a reason. And the question is, what is there to play for at this point? And yeah, you want to go out there and try to win every game. I am not suggesting that you purposefully try to lose, but the risk of aggravating whatever injury Ilya Sorokin had suffered against Nashville, if it results in long-term problems for Sorokin, to try to hold on to a 1% chance of making the playoffs makes very little sense. Call up Jakub Skarek. Let him be the backup. You have a back-to-back this weekend. If the Islanders lose to the Rangers tonight, I would even call up Skarek and let him start one of the games over the weekend and let Hogberg start the other. There is no reason to risk injury, further injury to Ilya Sorokin at this point when there is, unfortunately, nothing officially to play for. So, look, we'll see how this all ends up playing out, okay? And I know Sorokin is going to want to play, especially against the Rangers, where you're likely to have Igor Shesterkin in goal and their friends off the ice and friendly rivals on the ice. And yeah, I get it, okay? But to me, the risk far outweighs the reward. So it's going to be Shesterkin because Jonathan Quick played last night for the Rangers against the Flyers. But it just does not make sense at this point to have the Islanders risk further injury to Ilya Sorokin. There's just no logical percentage in it. If there was even a 33% chance or a 50% chance, yeah, I'm in. If there were 2 or 3 points back instead of, 8. Okay. But right now, it's like taking, you don't want to, the odds of getting struck by lightning are only slightly worse than the odds of the Islanders making the playoffs right now. And I just don't see the risk-benefit analysis favoring playing Ilya Sorokin. And I'll take it a step further, quite honestly. I would like to see this team call up a few of the younger players from Bridgeport to see what they can do. There are guys on this roster that just don't need to play these last few games. So you want to call up a Liam Foudy. Adam Beckman, by the way, suspended for hitting a referee. So probably can't call him up at this point. I'd like to see Alex Jeffries play a game or two. I'd like to see Samuel Bolduc come up and play a game or two. Would it hurt if Matthew Maggio got a game up in, at the NHL level. I'd love to see Isaiah George get called up. There are guys on the Bridgeport roster. Not that I'm saying that Bridgeport is this, wonderful bastion of prospects, because right now it's not. But, let's let some of these guys get a game or two at the NHL level. See what they could do. Inject a little energy into the lineup. Show me that some of these guys who are no longer regarded as prospects, and maybe one or two of the guys who are, can play with a little energy and play with a little juice and maybe help the Islanders be more entertaining, more consistent, more enthusiastic, and maybe it even rubs off on some of the other players. To me, that would make more sense than just throwing the same veterans out there game after game. I'd like to see more of Adam Boqvist in the lineup. And I think there are guys out there. Alexander Romanov looks tired, without a doubt. There are guys in this lineup who clearly could sit a few games out of the last 5, and it wouldn't matter much. And you just insert other guys. Kyle McLean hasn't had a great year. You could sit him for a game or two out of the last 5 games. It would make a lot of sense under the circumstances to rotate a few guys out of this lineup and have them sit. Whether they'll do it or not is a different question. I get the feeling Lou Lamoriello is only going to do that, if at all, after the Islanders are mathematically eliminated. Now, that could happen after tonight's games, depending on what Montreal does and what the Islanders do. But hopefully, it doesn't end tonight, and we'll see how it plays out. But that's what I think this team should do. Let some of these kids have a crack at it, and let's see if they could do it, and sit Ilya Sorokin to prevent any additional injuries from happening. We've got a lot more to get to on today's show. The Islanders nominee for the Masterton Trophy has been announced, and I think it's someone who is very deserving. We'll preview tonight's game against the Rangers, the greatest rivalry in sports. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a defenseman who was with the Islanders in the early to mid 2000s, who is an offensive defenseman from the Czech Republic, or now Czechia. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster, as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to bearmattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
So the NHL has announced the nominees for the Masterton Trophy, and congratulations to a very deserving player in Mike Reilly. Now, it's the Professional Hockey Writers Association that makes the nominations, and Wednesday they announced that it was Mike Reilly. Now, it's one player per team who gets nominated, and the Masterton Trophy is given to the player who best exemplifies the qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to ice hockey. And, usually they'll announce the 3 finalists well before the NHL awards ceremony, and then they'll announce the winner at the awards. Now, Reilly, well known what happened with him this year. He suffered a concussion back in November and ended up being diagnosed with a heart condition that they didn't know was even there. And it kept him out of the lineup for 4 months as he had surgery and then had to rehab. And Reilly basically sat out from that date in November all the way through to March 16th. And before he returned, he said, "I'm very grateful. There was a lot of people in my corner, the training staff, Lou, looking out for my best interest. The organization has been supportive from the start." Now, in 17 games this year, Reilly has 2 assists, 13 blocked shots. He has been in and out of the Islanders lineup since he returned from surgery. But boy, you want to talk, it would have been easy for Mike Reilly to say, "Hey, I've got this heart condition. I'm going to play it safe. I am not going to return to hockey. I have enough money to be okay for a while. And, I'm giving up." But he did not do that. He took care of the condition. He worked hard to return. He was skating for a long time, had to get back into shape. And I give a lot of credit to Mike Reilly. The Masterton Trophy is one of those things that really goes beyond just goals and assists and block shots and saves on the ice. It's one of those trophies that, is for a player who overcomes obstacles and who, just represents the best of what hockey players have to offer. 3 previous Islanders players have won this award. You start with Ed Westfall, the original Islanders captain back in 1977. Goalie Mark Fitzpatrick, who overcame a near fatal disease back in 1992 to return. And then Robin Lehner, who won it in 2019. And we have all, everydayers will recall, we've discussed Robin Lehner and his 1 year on the island and what it meant to him and the way the Islander fans treated him. So all of those things combined kind of tells you what the Masterton Trophy is about. And I think Mike Reilly would be a highly deserving winner. I think he deserves to be a finalist. Now, obviously, there are other compelling stories, and we'll wait to see who all the other 31 nominees are going to be. But I've always been a Mike Reilly fan. I like what he adds as a third pair defenseman and, second power play kind of a guy when he's healthy. And I would love to see him end up winning the award after everything that he has been able to overcome this year. So I hope he's a finalist. That's sort of the next step. But definitely Mike Reilly was the right choice out of all the players on the Islanders roster who could possibly win this award. And I certainly wish him all the luck in the world as far as, the competition is concerned. So Mike Reilly is the New York Islanders representative in the battle for the Masterton Trophy. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not he ends up getting it. Again, for the New York Islanders right now, I hope this team is able to respond to this situation well. And what I mean by that is this. Tuesday night, the Islanders were in a must-win game against a team that had nothing at stake in the Nashville Predators. They were eliminated from the playoffs. They are on a 6-game losing streak. This was a team with nothing to lose and nothing to gain. And they ended up playing a very loose game. I'm hoping that the Islanders, who played poorly against Nashville with a lot at stake, now that there's very little at stake, maybe the Islanders can play better hockey without worrying about whether or not they're going to win or lose or get back into the playoff race. The time has come to just relax and play hockey to the best of your ability. And I'm not saying don't play hard, but understand that at this point, the pressure is off, and maybe that could be a bit of a positive for the New York Islanders. All right, more to get to on today's show. Islanders, Rangers, one of the best rivalries in all of sports. That game is tonight. We'll have a full preview, plus our Islanders birthday of the day coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They are always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. The greatest rivalry in hockey, Islanders, Rangers, renews tonight. And always great when these two teams meet. Obviously, this is the final meeting of the season for these two rivals. And look, let's face it, the New York Rangers are roughly in the same boat as the New York Islanders. They're clinging to very minute playoff chances. And, you know, the Islanders do have a slight advantage. The Rangers will be on a back-to-back. They played the Flyers on Wednesday, whereas the Islanders had a day off. Now the Rangers played the Flyers at home. So, you know, they don't have much of a road trip. It's a little bus ride to UBS Arena from Manhattan to Elmont. That's, easy, right? Meanwhile, the Islanders, they had Wednesday off, but they were traveling from Nashville to Long Island. So, I guess the Islanders would have a slight advantage. The Rangers, a very talented team on paper, but they never seem to get out of their own way this year. They're 18th in the league in goals scored and 18th in the league in goals against after winning the President's Trophy a year ago. Their power play has struggled, just 27th in the league at 17.4%, and their penalty kill is better. It's 12th at 80.4%. I mentioned that Igor Shesterkin will be the goalie because Jonathan Quick played against the Flyers on Wednesday, and this is a back-to-back for the Rangers. Shesterkin, 25, 28, and 5 this year, but a 289 goals against and a 903 save percentage. He does have 5 shutouts. Artemi Panarin, 34 goals and 83 points. He leads the team in both goals and assists. But this Ranger team, it's been struggling, dealing with some injuries. Keandre Miller day-to-day. Arthur Kaliev is out. And meanwhile, Adam Edstrom is on IR. You look at the pairings, the line combinations right now. Vincent Trocheck, Artemi Panarin, and Alex Lafreniere. That's the top trio. JT Miller with Will Coyle and Mika Zibanejad. That's the second line. Sam Carrick, Chris Kreider, and Brett Berard are the third line. And from left to right on the fourth line, Brennan Othman, Johnny Brodzinski, and the big man, Matt Rempe. On defense, Adam Fox and Carson Soucy are the top pair. Zach Jones and Will Borgen, the second pair. And Urho Vakanainen and Braden Schneider are the third pair. Again, the goalies, Quick and Shesterkin, with Shesterkin almost certain to get the call. Look, you've got to slow down the top line of the New York Rangers. That's the key. And obviously Artemi Panarin is the guy that makes everything go. He and Trocheck, and then beware, do not give time and space to Adam Fox. He is an offensive defenseman who can really do some damage. And again, the Islanders, they win when they play solid defense. Don't back up too much. Don't leave players open for high danger shots. It's what won them the 2 games last weekend, and it's what lost them the game against the Nashville Predators. And look, obviously, the Islanders will need a full 60-minute effort against the Rangers. Both of these teams likely to miss the playoffs. Both of them theoretically in the same desperate situation as the other. The rivalry kind of makes it so that you throw away all of the records and you just say, hey, let these two teams go at each other. I love this rivalry. It's what I wrote my book about, Ice Wars. And it to me, especially if you go back to the period, let's say between 1975 and 1985, maybe even 1990, some of the best hockey I've ever seen were in Islanders Rangers games. And just part of what made me a hockey fan back in the day. So looking forward to this game, and hopefully the Islanders can play a respectable game, win, lose, or draw. And again, if the Islanders lose and the Canadiens win, this could be the end of the mathematical playoff hopes for the New York Islanders. Let's hope that it doesn't come to that. But again, one game at a time. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And we're a couple of days early here, but Saturday will be the 51st birthday of former Islanders defenseman Roman Hamrlik, the native of Zlín of the Czech Republic, now Czechia. First overall pick in the 1992 draft by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Played for them immediately in 92-93 and then joined the Oilers before joining the Islanders in 2000-2001. Stayed on the island through the 03-04 season, and then after the lockout, played for the Flames, the Canadiens, the Capitals, and then very briefly in 2012-2013, played a dozen games for the Rangers. Hamrlik, an offensive defenseman, had double-digit goals for the Islanders in his first 2 years with the team, had more than 40 points twice, so he knew how to move the puck, played in almost 1,400 NHL games, 155 goals, 638 points, 1,408 penalty minutes, 3 goals, 41 points in 113 playoff games in the career of Roman Hamrlik. One of his better games as an Islander in this one, well, let's take you back to October 20th, 2000. The Islanders visiting the Phillips Arena in Atlanta to take on the Atlanta Thrashers. The goalies, Wade Flaherty for the Islanders with Damian Rhodes in goal for Atlanta. And in this game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Roman Hamrlik gives the Islanders a 3-0 lead with the Islanders' second straight shorthanded goal. Zdeno Chara had one earlier. Hamrlik shorty from Claude Lapointe and Tim Connolly midway through the first made it 3-0 Islanders. And then in the second period on the power play, Hamrlik scores again to make the score 5-2 Islanders. Tim Connolly and Kenny Janssen with the assists. Islanders go on to win this game by a final score of 5-3. For Roman Hamrlik, he had 2 goals. He was a +3. He had 2 penalty minutes. He had a shorty and a power play goal. He had 5 shots on goal, which led all Islanders players. And he was on the ice for more than 25 minutes, showing you how valuable he was to this team. So Roman Hamrlik is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who made Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, maybe a comment or a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We will have our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Rangers, and we will be previewing both of this weekend's games as the Islanders have 2 road games in Philadelphia and in New Jersey, both of them matinees, so don't forget the game time. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.